Historic. That's the only word for what almost happened on Monday night. For the first time in American history, Congress nearly held a former president in criminal contempt. Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton were hours away from a full House vote that could have sent them to prison. And then, at the last possible minute, they caved. They agreed to testify in the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. But this story is about much more than just the Clintons avoiding jail time. It's about accountability, about power, and about whether anyone is truly above the law. Let's get into the details in today's video. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being here. Please make sure that you are subscribed to Solando Opinion on YouTube and follow us on social media for more exclusive content. I would absolutely love to see you there. Links are in the video description below to get connected. Let me set the scene for you. It's Monday evening, February 2nd, 2026. The House Rules Committee is meeting. They're advancing a contempt of Congress resolution against Bill and Hillary Clinton. This resolution, if passed by the full House, would mark the first time in United States history that a former president has been held in contempt of Congress. The penalty? Criminal charges, substantial fines, and potentially prison time. The vote was scheduled for this week. Republicans had the votes. And remarkably, 9 Democrats had already voted in committee to hold Bill Clinton in contempt. 3 Democrats voted to hold Hillary Clinton in contempt as well. This wasn't a partisan witch hunt. This was bipartisan pressure for transparency in one of the most important investigations in recent history. And then, while the Rules Committee was literally in session, an email arrived. Attorneys for the Clintons sent a message to the House Oversight Committee staff. The message was simple. Bill and Hillary Clinton accept your terms. They will appear for depositions on mutually agreeable dates. After months of resistance, after rejecting multiple previous offers, after forcing Congress to advance criminal contempt charges, the Clintons finally blinked. They agreed to testify. The House Rules Committee immediately postponed the contempt vote. But as we'll see, this story is far from over. Let's talk about how we got here. Last August, the House Oversight Committee, led by Chairman James Comer, issued subpoenas to Bill and Hillary Clinton as part of an investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and his network of powerful associates. The committee wasn't just investigating Epstein's crimes. They were investigating how the government handled the Epstein case. Why did he get a sweetheart deal in 2008? Who knew about his activities? Who was involved? And what did the Clintons know? The subpoenas also went out to several other high-profile figures, including former Attorneys General Merrick Garland, Loretta Lynch, Eric Holder, William Barr, Jeff Sessions, and Alberto Gonzales, as well as former FBI directors James Comey and Robert Mueller. The Clintons were supposed to appear for their depositions in January. They didn't show up. Their attorneys argued that the subpoenas weren't valid. They said the committee didn't have the authority to compel their testimony. They offered alternatives. Bill Clinton would do a 4-hour transcribed interview in New York City. Hillary Clinton would submit a sworn written declaration. But Chairman Comer said no. He wasn't interested in alternatives. He wanted both Clintons to appear in Washington, D.C. for sworn depositions before the committee. He said, and I quote, "The Clintons do not get to dictate the terms of lawful subpoenas." And so, last month, the House Oversight Committee voted to advance criminal contempt of Congress charges. The vote was 34-8 to hold Bill Clinton in contempt. 9 Democrats joined Republicans in support. The vote was 28-15 to hold Hillary Clinton in contempt. 3 Democrats supported those charges as well. Think about that. In today's hyper-partisan environment, 9 Democrats voted to hold a former Democratic president in contempt. That tells you how serious this is. Those Democrats said they wanted full transparency in the Epstein investigation. They said no one should be above the law, and they were willing to put their political reputations on the line to prove it. Now let's talk about what the committee is investigating. Why do they want the Clintons to testify? Well, Bill Clinton's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein is well documented. Epstein visited the White House 17 times during the Clinton administration in the 1990s. After Clinton left office, he flew on Epstein's private jet multiple times in the early 2000s. According to flight logs released in the Epstein files, Bill Clinton took at least 4 international flights on Epstein's plane in 2002 and 2003. His office said these trips were related to Clinton Foundation work. And Clinton has repeatedly said he cut ties with Epstein before the financier was accused in 2006 of having sex with a minor. Clinton has not been accused of any wrongdoing by Epstein's survivors. But Republicans and even some Democrats want to know exactly what Clinton knew about Epstein's activities. And then there's Hillary Clinton. Her involvement is less clear. Her spokesperson has said, quote, "Since this started, We've been asking what the hell Hillary Clinton has to do with this, and Comer hasn't been able to come up with an answer. But the committee wants to examine her role as Secretary of State. From 2009 to 2013, Hillary Clinton oversaw U.S. efforts to combat international sex trafficking. The committee wants to know if she was aware of Epstein's activities during that time. They want to know if the State Department had any information about Epstein's trafficking network. And they want to know if there was any coordination or lack thereof between the State Department and law enforcement agencies investigating Epstein. The timing of this investigation is also significant. Just last Friday, the Department of Justice released more than 3.5 million pages of Epstein files. These files include photos, emails, financial records, and FBI documents. And they reveal a lot about Epstein's network. There are photos of Bill Clinton at Epstein's estate. There are emails between Epstein and prominent figures. There are calendar entries showing planned visits to Epstein's private island, and there are unsubstantiated allegations against multiple public figures, including President Trump. Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche said on Sunday that no new charges are likely to come from these files. But the committee clearly believes there are still unanswered questions. Now let's get back to Monday night. The Clintons had been negotiating with the committee for days. On Saturday, their attorneys made another offer. Bill Clinton would sit for a 4-hour transcribed interview in New York. The scope would be confined to matters related to Epstein investigations and prosecutions. Hillary Clinton would address additional questions through a supplemental sworn declaration. Or if needed, she would sit for an in-person interview following the same format as her husband. But the attorneys also asked the committee to withdraw the subpoena and contempt resolution before the interviews took place. Chairman Comer rejected that offer on Monday morning. He called it not reasonable. He said the Clintons were trying to dictate the terms of lawful subpoenas. And he said he would proceed with the contempt vote. That's when things got interesting. The House Rules Committee convened Monday afternoon to advance the contempt resolution to the full House floor. This was the final procedural step before a floor vote. And according to reports, the email from the Clintons' attorneys arrived while the Rules Committee was in session. The attorneys said Bill and Hillary Clinton would accept Comer's terms. They would appear for sworn depositions. They asked only that the dates be mutually agreeable, and they requested that the committee not move forward with the contempt proceedings. The Rules Committee immediately postponed the vote. But here's where it gets complicated. Chairman Comer said Monday night that the agreement still lacks clarity. He said the Clintons haven't provided specific dates for their depositions. And he said, quote, "The only reason they have said they agree to terms is because the House has moved forward with contempt." In other words, Comer believes the Clintons are only cooperating because they were about to be held in criminal contempt. And he's not ready to drop the charges until he sees them actually show up and testify. Angel Urania, a spokesperson for Bill Clinton, responded on social media. He said, quote, "They negotiated in good faith. You did not. They told you under oath what they know, but you don't care. But the former president and former Secretary of State will be there. They look forward to setting a precedent that applies to everyone." That last line is interesting. Setting a precedent that applies to everyone. Is Urania suggesting that Trump should also be subpoenaed? Trump has not been called to testify in this investigation, even though he had a well-documented relationship with Epstein in the 1980s and 1990s. Democrats have accused Republicans of weaponizing the investigation to attack political opponents while protecting Trump. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said Monday that he's a hard no on contempt. He accused Comer of focusing on political retribution rather than investigating the delayed release of case files. He said, quote, "They don't want a serious interview, they want a charade." But 9 Democrats on the Oversight Committee disagreed with Jeffries. They voted for contempt charges against Bill Clinton. They said they want full transparency regardless of party. So what happens next? Well, the Clintons have agreed to testify, but no dates have been set. Comer says he wants clarity on the terms before he agrees to drop the contempt charges. The Rules Committee has postponed the vote, but Comer could bring it back at any time if the Clintons don't follow through. And even if they do testify, there's no guarantee the contempt charges will be dropped. Comer could argue that they should have complied months ago and that defying a congressional subpoena deserves punishment regardless of whether they eventually cooperate. If the Clintons do testify, it will be a historic moment. According to reports, the last time a former president testified before a congressional panel was Gerald Ford in 1983. Ford testified before a House subcommittee about the Nixon pardon. Before that, you have to go back to Theodore Roosevelt in 1912. So this would be a rare and significant event. And it would happen in the context of one of the most explosive scandals in modern American history. Let's also talk about the broader implications. This case raises fundamental questions about congressional power and presidential privilege. Can Congress compel a former president to testify? Yes, apparently. The Clintons and their attorneys argued that the subpoena wasn't valid, but they eventually conceded. Does a former president have any special protections? Historically, Congress has given deference to former presidents, but that deference is not absolute. If Congress believes a former president has information relevant to a legitimate investigation, they can issue a subpoena. And if that subpoena is ignored, they can hold the former president in contempt. The potential penalties are serious. Criminal contempt of Congress can carry a fine of up to $100,000 and up to 1 year in prison. The House can pass a contempt resolution, and then the Department of Justice decides whether to prosecute. But there's a political dimension here. Would the Trump administration's DOJ prosecute Bill and Hillary Clinton? That's an open question. Some Republicans would love to see it, but others might worry about the precedent. If a former president can be prosecuted for contempt of Congress, that opens the door for future investigations into other former presidents, including Trump. And let's not forget the substance of the investigation. Jeffrey Epstein ran a sex trafficking operation for decades. He abused dozens, possibly hundreds of underage girls. And he did it with apparent impunity because he had connections to powerful people. Politicians, businessmen, celebrities, royalty. The question is, who knew, who was complicit, who enabled him, and who covered for him? The Clintons' testimony could shed light on some of those questions, but it could also raise more questions than it answers. There's also the question of trust. Bill Clinton has said he cut ties with Epstein in the early 2000s, but the flight logs show he was still flying on Epstein's plane in 2002 and 2003. The newly released Epstein files include photos of Clinton at Epstein's estate. There are emails between Epstein and other prominent figures mentioning Clinton. So, what exactly was the nature of their relationship? And when did Clinton really stop associating with Epstein? These are questions the committee will likely ask. As for Hillary Clinton, the committee wants to know what she knew in her role as Secretary of State. Was the State Department aware of Epstein's trafficking operation? Did they receive any intelligence about it? And if so, what did they do with that information? Hillary Clinton has said she never met or spoke with Epstein. But the committee may have documents or testimony suggesting otherwise. Or they may simply want to establish on the record that she had no knowledge of his crimes. One more thing to consider. The committee has subpoenaed multiple former attorneys general and FBI directors as well. If they all testify, this investigation could reveal a lot about how the federal government handled the Epstein case over the years. Why did Alexander Acosta, the U.S. attorney in Florida, sign off on a plea deal in 2008 that let Epstein avoid federal prosecution? Acosta later became Trump's labor secretary, and he resigned in 2019 after that deal came under scrutiny. Why didn't the FBI pursue federal charges in 2007, even though agents expected Epstein to be indicted? And why was Epstein allowed to continue his activities for another 11 years before he was finally arrested in 2019? These are the questions at the heart of this investigation. And the Clintons' testimony is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. But it's a significant piece, because Bill Clinton was president during the years when Epstein was building his network, and Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State during the years after Epstein's first conviction, when he should have been under closer scrutiny. Their testimony could provide crucial insights into how Epstein was able to operate for so long with so many powerful connections. Stay tuned. The Clintons have agreed to testify, but we don't know when. Chairman Comer says he wants specific dates before he drops the contempt charges. The Rules Committee has postponed the vote, but it could come back at any time. And when the Clintons do testify, assuming they follow through, it will be one of the most closely watched congressional hearings in years. This is a story about power, accountability, and whether anyone is truly above the law. And it's far from over. Thank you very much for watching. I hope this video was informative. Please support the channel by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video with others who might find it interesting. I appreciate every single one of you who watches and engages with this content. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.